Welcome in. This is going to be a different type of video for us. This will be a preview of the upcoming Wild Turkey 101 8-year.
We went to the distillery on Media Day to chat with Bruce Russell and team to get the inside scoop on what the release is all about. We did not get to review it while we were there. We did get to taste it, but we didn't want to review it in front of the people who made it because, you know, we know how you guys feel about that. It's coming out in April. When we get a bottle then, we'll sit down here and do a separate official review. But really, we just wanted to taste it and talk to the team about what it's all about. As you all know, they do release an 8-year product, but it's only been internationally for a while, since the 90s, right?
Since the 90s, it left the U.S. They have the 8-year age stated and the 12-year age stated. In international markets, the 8 is now coming back. It's a triumphant homecoming.
We're very excited.
Return. So here's what we know so far about it. It is, of course, age stated 8 years. That is the youngest in it. The regular Wild Turkey 101 over here, the youngest in here, although not age stated, is reported to be 6 years. So there's that 2-year bump. But there is also 9-year, much like the 70th anniversary, which we have right here. There's 8 and 9-year that's going to be in the regular 8-year age-stated 101. And it's also not going to be an LTO or a limited time offering. It is going to be a new staple, permanently available is what they're calling it. And Sarah, we'll get into this with Bruce, but
I think this is the headline. This is the headline. Price point, $45.
$45.
$45 for an 8-year Wild Turkey 101 that's going to be regularly available on the shelf, right? So there should be no reason for people to be doing secondary pricing and all this stuff on this. In my mind, we're considering this, it's a new Russell's 10-year. It's a new Rare Breed. This is a new Kentucky Spirit. Like, these are things that are staples on the shelf, good quality. With Kentucky Spirit, you see also around, at 101 proof, we've had picks that have been 8 years, so you're kind of getting something like that, but it's an everyday staple, not a pick.
Correct.
And Kentucky Spirit's more expensive.
It is, and it's also a single barrel, so whatever that age statement is what is 100% in there, whereas the batch product of the new 8-year will be at least 8 and 9. Different warehouses, different campuses that Bruce will get into in this interview. All three of us were trying it. I was behind the camera, behind the scenes, but Sarah is trying it there with Bruce. And as I said, you don't take this as a review, but you guys kind of talk about it, so you will at least be able to get some flavor notes, and then afterwards we can try to recall what we got on there. But before we get into that interview with Bruce Russell, we want to pause because we want to tell you about Zbiotics.
That's right. Zbiotics is something that on these media days and the New Orleans Bourbon Festival, where we were recently down there drinking for an entire weekend, we rely on Zbiotics to wake up feeling our best the next day. Zbiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic.
It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking.
Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut.
It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day.
Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down.
Just remember to make Zbiotics your first drink of the night, drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow.
Click the link in the description for 15% off your first order at checkout.
Zbiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they will issue you a refund, no questions asked.
Now on to that interview.
So what we're doing here today, the reason why we're all here hanging out, we're reintroducing this 8-year-old 101 Wild Turkey. It's not been available in the United States regularly since the 1990s. So this is an export product that we've had in Japan, a little bit in Australia, over the years that we're bringing back to the United States. Unlike the 70th anniversary last year, which I think was like normal 101, ratcheted up to 11, this has got a completely different flavor profile. So to me, this is a little bit more in line with the 12-year-old export. So where 101 is a great kneader on the rocks, but it makes a great base spirit for a cocktail or anything like that, this is much richer, much deeper and darker in flavor. With a lot more fruit, a lot more cocoa, caramel, toffee, instead of like the honeys and vanillas you get on 101. And so this is perfect, just as a neat pour for me. We're really excited about this product. This is what Wild Turkey is all about. An age-stated, over 100 proof product at $45 on shelf. It's hard to beat.
Yeah, you get a lot of that toffee.
Yeah, you're getting a lot of that dark sweetness. You're getting a lot more age. I mean, it's crazy to me that, 101's 6 and older. This is just 8 with a little bit of 9 in there, but it smells much older than just 2 years difference.
Yeah, on the palate, definitely towards the finish, you get that 8-year influence really coming through. I think you get more perception of like the oak in there, the maturity.
Absolutely. It's deeper and richer. The finish to me is the best part. I think our best whiskeys and like what I really enjoy, like rare breed's one of my favorite things we do. It's not just a nice finish, it's almost chewy at the end. So it lingers for a long time, it's mouth-watering. And that little extra age, it really makes a huge difference.
$45 for an 8-year is, look, we kind of, in the past, we see sort of a formula used when it comes to products on the shelf that it's pretty much predictable that it'll be $10 for every year. So
okay.
Like if this product were $80, I wouldn't have been surprised. So 45 is a great value.
For Wild Turkey specifically, that's what this brand was always built on, is like the original brand was 8-year-old 101 turkey, and it was a shelfer. And that's what my grandfather, so really the only thing he made until the 80s. And then it really still is his perfect whiskey. And he's always preached to us, like, why are we making these whiskeys if the people that make it can't afford it? He's not talking about him. He's talking about the people that actually make our whiskey. So the union workers, the people that supervise in the plant, and, having only limited editions or special age-dated products that are hundreds of dollars, that doesn't really fit us. And so now that we're bringing back age-dated, high-proof, absolutely delicious, and I think, this can stand up to anything that we're doing, even on the LTO side, for $45. That's, like you're saying, the $10 per year. It does seem more in line with like what the industry's done, until you get high, and then it's even more. Sometimes it's $20 per year. And to have something that sits at this price point means the world to us, because that's what we're all about.
So would you say that that's like a nod to his legacy?
That's Jimmy through and through. And I think you saw it with the 70th last year. It's like, I think for most distilleries, if they had somebody that worked there for 50 years, much less 70, they'd be putting out a $500 bottle or a $1,000 bottle or a special VC release, which, that'd be easy to do. People would buy it and they'd go crazy. That's not what Jimmy's about. Jimmy doesn't drink Russell's 15. He doesn't drink Master's Keep. He drinks 101. He drinks Rare Breed. That's all he drinks. And a Kentucky Spirit every now and then if I bring him one. And so this is Jimmy. And you're right. The affordable, awesome age-dated whiskey, that's his legacy.
As you mentioned before, like in the 90s, this was, discontinued here. And now, and like only available overseas, which created some hype, right? Now that it's back in the US, have you gotten any consumer reception from that? Or what do you expect?
So now that we're bringing it back to the US for the first time since the 90s, and the export product was a little bit hyped up, I expect that to continue for this. And I think we're taking a smart approach. This is a permanent edition. It's gonna sit side by side with the 101. Normal 101's not going away. This is gonna be a pretty small allocation for the first year. I don't say allocation because people act like they can't get it. It's just a small batch the first year. We're gonna continue to ramp up, but we didn't wanna flood the market with 8 101. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback, especially on the price, because I think people, like you said, maybe we're thinking $70, $80, $100. And it's one of those things you can tell with a lot of the comments when people start to post those TTB labels. Oh, it'll be the same as it is when I exported over here, 60 or 70 bucks or whatever. And then when they saw that $45 price point, when they realized it's gonna be kind of like the 70, it's been nothing but like, please do more of this. This is awesome. This is what Wild Turkey is all about. And I think it honestly gives us a little bit more leeway to do this special cool stuff. I can understand if a person's a hardcore turkey fan when we put out super high-end products that are $300 or $400, and that's the only special product that we're offering at the time. I think the guy or the lady that drinks 101, they feel like there's nothing for them. And those are the people that keep us going, are the 101 drinkers. And so now we've got not an LTO because it's permanently available, but essentially an LTO quality product for $45.
So that's interesting, Sarah. What Bruce said there is, it is going to be a regular offering. It's going to be right beside this regular 101 on the shelf. But it's sort of going to be like in our town, probably your town too, when a new restaurant opens up. There's people wrapped around the building.
Wait list miles long.
Waiting to get in there. And then 3 months later, it's just regular
It's normal
traffic.
Yeah, so I would say, as they ramp up into production, the first release is going to be that smaller batch, and ultimately it will ramp up into regularly available on the shelf. If people are marking it up, and you see it out there, for more than what it should be, $45, don't take the bait. I would personally just wait until it is out there full time to grab your bottle. But some people just can't resist the FOMO.
Well, now it seems like a proper time to step away from the interview and tell you about our home on the internet. It's whiskyambitions.com. It's where you can get the t-shirt that I'm wearing, the Glencairns that we drink from, water glasses, in fact, all of our glassware, including our mini Glens. Don't forget those guys. They are great. More t-shirts and hats and hoodies and sweaters and bottle cut candles and elemental elixir cocktail syrup and more always coming soon at whiskyambitions.com.
And you can become a patron at patreon.com/itsbourbonnight and join our community for as little as $1 a month. And there you'll get the inside scoop on new bottles, and we'll compare them to old bottles and do all kinds of exclusives for you. You'll also get exclusive access to our barrel picks, after the episode content, and more. Look at all these fine names who help support us. They also, depending on their tier, get discounts on the merch that we were talking about before.
That is correct, Sarah.
If we do travel and events, they get the heads up. When we were in New Orleans, we saw a bunch of them at a happy hour that we put together. It's just a fun time, great people to connect with, lovely community.
Lovely indeed, much like our lovely viewers. Okay, we're gonna take a little break and we'll be right back after this. All right, as we said, this isn't gonna be a review, but we do want to kind of just talk about our first impressions of it. Sarah, what did you think when you had that first sip of the new 8-year?
My first thought, and I asked him, we talked about this in the questions, was, I can't believe this is $45. I'm thrilled that this is $45. Like, again, when you consider, what's out there with Russell's 10 or the Russell's single barrel picks, when you've got rare breed on the shelf, or something like the 70th anniversary turkey, it's just like, the fact that this is going to be a standard on the shelf release for $45 in a climate where a lot of people would have chosen, a lot of brands would have chosen to go higher. And he talks about that, right? About how that harkens back to the tradition of it all in the family lineage and believing that this is sort of an everyman's product and they want to put it at more of an everyman's price entry point, an access point.
I was very impressed by it. Now, I don't know if I can chalk any of that up to rose-colored glasses, being at the distillery, drinking it with, a third-generation Russell there. So I'm not going to be like, guys, this is the best. This is the best. But take it for what it's worth. I really enjoyed it. From memory, because again, we didn't have the 70th there to try, but from memory, I believe I liked it more than the 70th anniversary. This is good.
I do remember that, it was apparent that it was a little bit older, and even though I wouldn't say it was drastically different. It was definitely in line with 101, but you definitely got those leather, tobacco, oak notes, a little bit more of that maturity. It wasn't overwhelming or overpowering, but it was present. It was there. There was definitely a difference. If you put those things side by side, I am confident, and you can clip this later and we'll put it up in our video when we can do a side-by-side. I'm confident that I can tell the difference.
All right. I feel a flight coming on, a blind flight.
Ooh.
Yeah. So since we had Bruce Russell there for, whatever time we had left, we decided to ask him some questions, talking about, warehouse location and being a third generation at the distillery. So here's some more questions that we asked Bruce Russell.
So talking about, our consumers' love of certain locations or certain warehouses, there is something to it. And I'm at fault of this because, if you tell me I can get a Dietz full barrel right at Heaven Hill, I don't even need to try it. I'm like, that's better. Because that's just what I've known my whole life, And there is something to it. What's going on at Camp Nelson is special. And I know that's a location that people really look for. Trust me, this 8-year-old got some Camp Nelson in it. Our LTOs do. We've got a handful of warehouses there and a ton of whiskey out there. All we know for sure is that temperatures are a little bit higher. We get more extraction, proofs are up. And so that means that there is going to be more flavoring compound in there because it's in that barrel longer. Is the whiskey always going to be best out of there? I don't know. And I think a lot of our fans today, they know Camp Nelson. But if they were to talk about OG turkey heads from the 90s, Those people only like warehouse B, warehouse G, warehouse K. They don't even know what Camp Nelson is. So I think it's somewhat cyclical, but it definitely has influenced us in that when we see people go crazy for stuff like Russell's 13, Russell's 15, specific masters keeps on the wild turkey side, a lot of that stuff has come from Camp Nelson. And so it makes us realize that whether or not it's true, our fans like the flavor profile that's come from there. And so we want to include that in a lot of our whiskeys, including this 8-year-old.
Do you have a favorite that you'd be willing to share? You don't have to.
No, I will. My favorite rickhouse is Camp Nelson F. I think it has all the good parts of Camp Nelson, and it's where my favorite products have come from. So extreme heat, sits right there on the little cliffside, very sweet, very fruity. And it's amazed me that a lot of that stuff out at Camp Nelson can be up to 140, 150 plus proof, and it's not too aggressive on the oak.
As a third generation, can you talk about what that means to you and how that influences your role? Because you're, walking in, you're following big footsteps.
Yeah, being third generation whiskey maker and fourth generation employee here, weirdly enough, Jimmy's dad actually worked at Old Joe, which is on the other side of our town. When Old Joe was going under or something had happened, Jimmy's dad actually came to work here, and Jimmy was his own dad's boss for a little while. But getting to work with Dad and Jimmy, obviously they're huge shoes to fill. But something that has benefited me greatly is both of them have said, you have to find your own path. You're never gonna be me. It's basically what they said. And that's not like I'm better than you. They both started at very different times in our industry. I'm gonna have to find my own path. And it's honestly helped me because I don't know anybody else in this industry that can say they got to learn directly from two Bourbon Hall of Famers, from two of the greats, and they don't agree at all on the whiskey that's good here, which has helped me because now I'm gonna get to take what I think are the best parts of each of them and blend them together, which I think is the big in-your-face, bold aspect of Jimmy's whiskey and Dad's ability to let stuff just sit and age longer than Jimmy has. Jimmy only likes 6 to 12-year-old whiskey. I love my grandfather, but he's not here. And so I'll admit, man, it gets better even after 12.
In terms of your legacy, as you're kind of shaping that vision, does anything come to mind? Any direction?
As I continue to progress as a whiskey maker, I want my products to stand up for themselves just on the quality of the whiskey. So I actually think when you look at the products that'll come out, you'll almost see a return to the old school. My father was always influenced by maturation. And so he's very experimental for wild turkey experimental, for secondary maturations and leaving stuff in a barrel a really long time. He's put out stuff that had temperature controlled aging. All that stuff's really cool. I think a lot of what you'll see from me will be kind of what Jimmy was all about as far as flavor profile. So you'll start to see higher proofs. You'll start to see some age dated, like Dad's done some older stuff. And I really want the whiskey to just be, man, this is awesome whiskey. Because I think the best whiskey we've done, whether it was all the way back to cheesy gold foil to modern day stuff like Russell's 15, there is no marketing story. It's just, man, this whiskey's really good. And that's what I want to get to. So every distillery is kind of known for certain things. I think the thing we're really known for is consistency. And the best compliment we get, and regularly we get this, is we'll get fans say, well, anything y'all put out, I'm gonna get it, I know it's good. And a lot of that comes from us being only a one recipe operation. A lot of that comes from nobody else has the direct lineage we have. And what I mean by that is this 2025, we've been around since the 1860s. We've only had 4 master distillers, and we've never had a time without one except for Prohibition. And so we've been able to retain the direct legacy from the original founders, and it's allowed us to make old school whiskey that's extremely consistent, and you know what you're getting with turkey. And I think that that's awesome for our consumers because it's got turkey on the label. It's gonna have clove on the mid palate. It's gonna have caramel vanilla. It's gonna have a little bit of oak. It's gonna be spicy. It's not gonna be subtle in flavor. And to me, I think that's the thing that kind of sets us apart is that consistency. You're not gonna try a wild turkey product and think, wow, this is out there. We'll leave that for the private barrel program.
Who kind of do you see as your circle of friends within the industry?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, when I was growing up, Jimmy's best friends were Elmer and Booker and Parker Beam. And these were people that I just Al Young over 4 Roses. These were just people that I kind of grew up around. And it is interesting because my dad didn't have as much of that. A lot of times it would just be him and Fred. And there have been some other people that he really has loved over the years. He's a big fan of Denny Potter and some other folks of that ilk. But I'm at this awesome time where there are so many young distillers, and there's more than just Kentucky. And I think that's the exciting part for me is most of my dad and grandfather's friends and their peers were here, where some of mine are. Like because I grew up around them and because he's the same boat I am. Freddie is somebody I always look forward to see what he's doing. But there are people that work outside of Kentucky that I always check out what they're doing because I think they're good people. I really enjoy being around them. And I think they've got really interesting takes on what they can do with their whiskey, whether it be the folks and family up at Starlight, whether it be Kylenin down at the Holiday Distillery in Missouri. I think that's a really cool part for me is my friends and my influences don't have to just be from here. It could be from the whole country or the whole world. And I think the thing that we have that's much different, my peers, my age group, Jimmy, there was no such thing as a whiskey nerd. There was no such thing as a whiskey community. And if there was during his career at all, it only existed in Japan or Australia. It didn't exist here for most of his career. Dad didn't understand it. Now, he's been influenced by the community, but it was later in his career, and he's not a whiskey nerd, and he doesn't hang out with people like that. Well, for people like me and Freddie and Drew over at Willett, the people over at Bardstown, there's some younger people involved. And I know these people are whiskey nerds because I've hung out with them. I've drank with them. I know their friends. And that's really it really benefits us, I think, because not only are we able to do a good job of making whiskey by sharing secrets and trading with each other like Jimmy and them did, but I know what our customers want because I'm one of them and I hang out with them. And that's something that I think young distillers actually have that our fathers and grandfathers didn't.
Now, here's the one thing that hasn't been talked about yet, and hopefully you've stuck around for this, is the release date. They did not have an exact release date, but they say they're shooting for April, end of April. It might be beginning of May, but,
late April.
Second quarter 2025?
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
That sounds right.
Sure. So
and then we'll again roll out, I'm sure, in your areas at a different time than it does in our areas. So just keep an eye out, I would say, starting mid-April to mid-May. For that release, and I'm sure there will be lots of accounts on lots of websites putting out, when it hits shelves, lots of Instagram
once they
videos.
have a solid date,
right? Yeah. But we just want to thank the Wild Turkey team for having us out, and for Bruce for giving us so much of his time to be able to answer our questions. He was a delight to talk to. Honestly, I felt like we could have stayed in that room for an hour or more, just chit-chatting. He's got, I'm sure, some great stories, and be on the lookout from our other Media Day team friends for more coverage on that.
Yeah, exactly what I was gonna say. It was great to hang out with some fellow YouTubers and podcasters and journalists and so forth. So.
Some great folks who also love some great whiskey.
Yeah, exactly. Well, folks, looking forward to when we have the actual bottle here and we're reviewing it. But that's where we gotta leave it for now. If you haven't subscribed to us already, you can do so by clicking right up here. There's suggestions of other videos down here. Hope you're over there in one of those. Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, Chad.
Okay, until next time, drink more Wild Turkey.